afternoon, everybody. This is the panel you've all been waiting for. It's about the architecture of flourishing, AI, agency, and the future of intelligence. Did I get that right? Yes. So we are a self-moderated panel. I have Babak here and Bastiaan next to me. We will start by a round of quick introductions, and then we will each tell you why we think we know something about the topic, and then we're going to have a conversation. Sound good? Okay. My name is Alon Halevy. I work at Google. I've been at Google for a long time, and then I left, and then I came back. I'm also a former professor and entrepreneur. I'm also a former author of a coffee book, a well-known coffee book. The reason I'm here, though, is not any of those things before. It's because I'm very passionate about building systems that can really improve our well-being using AI. And I'll talk about that in a little bit soon.
All right, I'll go next. I'm Babak Rasolzadeh. I'm with Apple, but we're friends here. And before that, I had an academic career. I did a bunch of research, many years in humanoid robots and self-driving cars. And since then, I've been in the industry working on implementing a lot of these solutions at startups and at big companies like Apple.
Hi everyone, my name is Bastiaan and Braber. I am a converted management consultant, and so over the last 8 years I've been a tech entrepreneur. I'm a big fan of our individual agency within the digital space, especially when it comes down to AI, and I run the Spatial Web Foundation, which is the supporting mechanism that I'm contributing to this world.
Awesome. So should I go first?
Yeah, you go first.
Okay. So I'm obsessed about using AI to improve our well-being. Okay, but if you look at what we have, I'm so obsessed about it that I'm actually writing a book about this. So if you look at what we have today, is we have a plethora of applications that each address a very narrow aspect of our well-being, right? So I have an Oura ring that tells me how I sleep. I have an iWatch that forces me to exercise. I've got a meditation app. I've got a bunch of things, but they each focus on one narrow aspect of my well-being. Okay, and the problem is that because of that, my well-being is not actually going anywhere. Okay, I don't feel like AI is really improving my well-being, and the reason for that is, first of all, well-being is very complicated, right?
Yeah,
well-being.
how do you define well-being?
Okay, so we can spend the entire afternoon defining well-being, but well-being starts from your physical safety and being able to just like walk about the world. It goes to your financial, your health, your mental well-being, and then it goes up the pyramid, right? It goes to things like meaning and learning and why you actually do all the things that you do. So it's extremely complicated, right? And there are like a huge number of books written about trying to define well-being and what it means.
Yeah, one of my favorites is by this American psychologist, Martin Seligman.
Martin Seligman.
Flourish.
Yes.
Right, where he introduces the PERMA model.
Yes.
What was it? Positive emotions, let's see, relationships, engagement, meaning, and accomplishments.
Yes. So actually, Martin Seligman, he is the founder of the field called positive psychology. Now, psychology has been around. I'm not a psychologist, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. Psychology has been around for hundreds of years, but they've always focused on bringing or addressing problems in your mental well-being, right? So if you're depressed or what have you. So it was all about bringing people from here to what we call normal. Positive psychology is about taking you from normal to awesome, okay? And now the potential here is that AI can help all of us, whether we're normal or not, nobody here is normal, right? Go from where we are to a much better version of ourselves, okay?
Yeah, and I guess along those lines, I think the problem we're facing today is that a lot of the AI we all build, I build on a daily basis, is dictated by a sort of very monotonic, single objective type of optimization. You typically try to optimize for clicks or engagements or attention grabbing, while, as you said, well-being is way more complex than a single metric.
Yeah, and I think there's also an aspect of well-being, which is how you go about your daily life and how happy you are in interacting with digital systems, right? Just as how happy you are in interacting with yourself and with others. And today's systems, especially when we're looking at the siloed and the non-interoperable apps, applications, systems, how much of a frustration is that, right? We can make apps for specific wellness things, but at the same time, by having 4 or 5 different apps that you wish were working together, that is not a form of wellness in the way we interact with our systems, right?
So let me ask the two of you a hard question, okay? So today we have the situation that we have all these siloed apps. So what is the solution, okay? I'll turn it into a multiple choice question, okay? And you feel free to add more choices. I'm gonna give you 2 choices, okay? The one is an Uber app, not the Uber app, one app that knows you so well, has all your data from all your applications, knows your dreams, your desires, your experiences, your limitations, what your spouse wants, everything, okay? And gives you the best advice that you can. A second possibility is that we can't build that one app simply because maybe there's not one company that'll build it, but we have sort of like an operating system that raises the level of abstraction that all these apps can be built on. And then these apps can be built in a way that is at least cooperative with other apps. What do you guys think? Or maybe there's a third option.
So easy. Give me the operating system, because I want full control over my own data. I want to define who gets to use what data. I want full sovereignty of when I pull my data, right? Think about 23andMe. I don't know if you guys were on it, but I was fast to delete my data profile the moment it got sold, right? You give trust, and then the trust, you don't know if it's being broken, but it's now at risk. So what are you going to do? And to your point, like if that's with one large system or one large provider, they have all of your trust. You have zero control over what's being done with that trust with a commercial company, right? So B.
Yeah, I have to concur. You know, Stanford has this center called Human-Centered AI Initiative or center.
We have the co-director sitting right there.
Oh, there we go, yeah. So in their latest report, they showed that the trust for AI is still, you know, in its infancy. Most people, I forgot what the exact number was, he probably remembers, but it was in the 60s, don't trust AI whatsoever. Now, it's one thing to use it here and there as a ChatGPT type solution, the same way you would use Google, but it's a whole different thing to trust it with your data, with decisions about your life. So I think, we are nowhere near a society that would, you know, be okay with option A. But I do think that eventually, you know, our great-grandchildren will have a society where the trust in AI has reached a level where the majority of decisions are made without the humans even being aware of it. But now I'm being a bit of a futurist.
So let me ask you a question. Where is the trust going to come from? Exactly. Where is the trust going to come from?
So my answer to both of you, you're both wrong. But
I knew it was a leading question.
No, because so take you, Babak, right? Apple has so much of my data already. But so I'm not. What's going to make the trust come about? You already have my data. Since you're not doing a very good job with AI, you're not actually fusing it and giving any value of it. Sorry.
Ouch.
Ouch.
But point
that's
taken.
Okay. But still, you have the data, right? And so, is it a problem of where we put the data or where we put the fusion and the inference? I guess that's my question.
Yes, since you took a dig at Apple, I'll start with replying to that. I think the question of where the data resides is a core aspect of where the trust comes from. You know, something like 3/4 of the data produced. This is a number from 2023, so I'm sure it's even more now. Produced today that AI consumes, produced in our world, actually comes from the edge. right? It comes from where we are, where we, in our homes, in our societies, where we produce that data. But despite that, all of the AI that we are training now and producing now is trained centralized, right? Majority of it, vast majority of it. And I think that's an issue, that's a problem. I do think that the approach Apple takes to, making sure the AI is out there with the consumer, with the user, is a way of gaining that trust. Because the more the AI is centralized, meaning the data is gathered and centralized, the more difficult it's going to be to gain that trust. But if you bring the AI to the user instead of taking the user's data to the AI, that might flip the equation.
Right, so what you're describing, and I think that's something when we talk about the future of intelligence, is also that we want the intelligence to be real time, present with us, for us, which means it needs to be contextually aware. So let's just bring down the hammer on LLMs. They're not that by default and will never be.
Stochastic parrots.
Yeah, so I really appreciate what Apple did. I think it was a week or 2 weeks ago where an article came out describing exactly what LLMs not are. That doesn't mitigate.
You're talking about the illusion of thinking paper?
Yes, thank you.
From Apple, just to be clear.
From Apple.
My colleagues.
Former Googler.
Yeah. I know they are former Google.
Yeah. So the path towards the future and what we can see in the future is not so much artificial intelligence, it's natural intelligence. Like how we are interacting here, we are contextually aware. None of what's happening here would be trainable in an AI model, right? So there is a core element to the intelligence that needs to work with real-time data inputs, process that, and work it the way we want it to work, right?
Yeah, I got a name drop another great book, also an old one, not older than Martin Selig's book, that I actually read during my PhD by 3 brilliant cognitive scientists. I forgot the name of the scientists, but the book is called The Embodied Mind. And in that, they make this very compelling thesis that I think since then, vast amount of evidence has gathered in favor of. And the thesis is, they call it the embodiment thesis, that intelligence, the way we intuitively define it or intuitively recognize it, is something that only emerges as a result of physical interaction with your environment. Now, if you want to generalize that, you can say it emerges in context, right? Within a given context. You can define intelligence as, well, intelligence only within a video game. Sure, fine. But then it's within the context of that video game. And nothing less, nothing more. But I think context, or in my opinion, embodiment is crucial there.
Yeah, and there is actually a scientist who just switched over from the scientific world, as in putting stuff on paper, math formulas. He moved into the commercial space because for the first time ever, the natural intelligence, which is based on Bayesian free energy principles, is now being able to be put in systems, and that's what's enabled that natural intelligence, which is the way our brain works, which is we don't compute every scenario and then say, with this scenario is the highest probability, 95% this is right, so that's the choice you need to make. We wouldn't know, we wouldn't go anywhere all day, we'll just be computing. Our brains use the amount of energy of a light bulb on a day. You put one query in an LLM, you can burn a factory off of that, right? So it's a fundamental different approach mathematically to how intelligent systems need to work. And that is where the future is moving towards to. And the way we're using AI now at a mass scale and starting to use way more, it's amazing. Huge automation, huge efficiency improvements, but it's not the future of intelligence, right?
So I want to ask you a question again.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So let's put aside for a second the distinction between train time and inference time. Okay. So the thing about doing it on your device or in the cloud, the training will happen, in big data centers, and then the question is, can you really apply inference? But let's put that aside for a second. When you guys say context, that you need to know the context of the moment, right? I agree with you that's crucial. I have this image of me looking like a self-driving car with a thing going around my head, looking at everything around me and reading my brain and reading my calendar and reading everything. Like, how much data, what is the crucial data that we actually need in order to provide sufficient context so a smart AI, a helpful AI can actually give us good advice at the moment?
I think that's a sliding scale. Like that's going to vary. Like today, or let's take what the LLMs, the best LLMs today can do. If you would take that back in time, not a whole lot back in time, like 10 years, which is not a lot of time, back in time, and demonstrate that for any human being, even the most optimistic scientists at the time, their heads would explode. So I think in terms of, and that would be, they would probably claim it's in terms of utility, in terms of value, in terms of equalness to human intelligence or beyond. They would claim this is the end-all, be-all sort of AI. We know today that that's not the case. These LLMs, as we said, are these stochastic parrots that have severe limitations and dangers even. But I think it's because our expectations of what's useful or when it becomes useful just keeps. It's this receding sort of door in the corridor.
Moving the goalposts.
Moving goalposts constantly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's I think an interesting analogy that maybe makes it very tangible as a probable answer to your question, but there's probably another answer that you're thinking of. But if you think about IoT devices, they give us data all the time. And an IoT device typically gives a signal, which is maybe a kilobyte. So maybe we don't need data all the time. We need signals, which is nothing compared to large amounts of data that we need to compute with, right? So if we have the algorithms that know what to do with a signal, we don't have to do the computing all the time. It's like you said, that happens when training the model.
You're both extremely smart. You completely avoided answering my question.
That was the point.
So
my answer was, it's going to change every time.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we don't answer wrong.
Okay.
What's your answer, Alon?
No, I don't. If I'd have one, I would sort of like build it into the question, and right. But I mean, we need, right. So I'm very bullish on smart glasses, okay, because they can see what I'm seeing, right, and they can see my calendar. I'm very bullish on journals. So in journals, I write what I feel. I write my aspirations for the future. I write about the relationships that I have, and what's good about them and what's challenging about them. So I would like an AI that sort of understands my lived experience.
So you think the not so great success of Google Glasses was mostly due to it being wrong in time?
It was way too early in time. Yeah, I mean, look at the Meta glasses, how spectacularly unspectacular they are at this point.
I'm sure that's why Apple stayed away from it.
Yeah, but we should give all these companies a lot of credit, because this is a really, including yours, right? I mean, you're doing
huge
stuff,
undertaking,
right?
Yeah.
So this is a technology that takes decades to build, and what we need companies that have large pockets that go and just do this over years and just tell their stock owners to like shut up while they're building.
Yeah.
So, but I'm hopeful that this is going to happen pretty soon. It'll be at least useful, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel like we have a tendency here in Silicon Valley and Bay Area to be a bit in our own bubble about what's feasible and also needed to make AI useful. I'm with you that if I got it the way I want it, everyone would always walk around not only with Google Glasses but with all sorts of sensors, embodied sensors in the real world that would constantly collect data and signals to enrich their experience of what they're doing in the real world, whether they're just leisurely sort of browsing the world or actually engage in some sort of professional activity. But I think outside of our bubble, that kind of reality is going to be difficult to implement.
Yeah, and there's when you think about it, there's probably a bunch of people walking around with one of those AI sensors around their necks, which are just like your phone. If you have your voice activated, it's listening to you non-stop 24/7. These things go a little bit further. They actually pick up everything you say and give you a nice summary if you want to. And you can go back into that and into history and find out exactly who said what when. It's pretty creepy. You better want to know if you're talking to somebody who has one of them. But it's, you know, combine it with the glasses, combine it with your Oura ring, combine it with your phone. Like, we have a full-on digital ecosystem around us. And I think, you know, that will keep developing. Look, our capitalistic and commercial models don't facilitate all of these things to work together very smoothly, right? Then the model will break soon, but there is a layer underneath that which you mentioned earlier with an operating system, and that's what we're working on with the Spatial Web Foundation. We're a non-profit, so I'm just going to drop it. But it's a protocol and a layer that everything can communicate each other without being in competition, and that can serve humanity to be able to integrate those different elements that we're all using, with 5, 10 different things at the same time, into one data set that I can own and I can provide trusted access to.
I remember doing my PhD, which was ages ago, 17, 18 years ago. Yeah, no, I'm older than I look. So this was in Sweden, where I'm from, and we were working on this European, EU-funded project that was funded by the EU budget for accessibility and population health sort of thing. And the project was actually one of these pendants that was supposed to be for people with certain disabilities, that made it difficult for them to remember or register what happened during the day, and needed some sort of an assistant there with them all the time to capture the important moments, log them in some sort of way, and be able to sort of report on it at the end of the day, or to their caretaker remotely. And you know, we built actually these pendants, and of course they had all of the compute, even the computer vision stuff I was working on happened in the cloud. But what was remarkable was, for me, was that as a technologist, I thought this is super cool, and you know, I would want to have one. But even these people that through this population health well-being program had been signed up for the pilot, they found it very sketchy. You know, and you know, this is in Europe, this is in Sweden, mentalities are different, culture is different, but they found it very sketchy. We found that less than 1/3 of them were willing to, who had initially signed up because they thought it's interesting, some sort of device that's going to help me in my day-to-day sort of life. But 2/3 of them pulled out as the program started, because when they realized, wait, this is and the images and the sound is going to be streamed somewhere, and you're going to log it, and who's going to access it?
Remind us, how much does Apple log from everything you hear through the phone? This is your moment.
I have no idea. And even if I did, you know, I wouldn't be able to talk about it. But I mean, yes, companies today log way more than, not just Apple, of course, way more than people realize, right? And a lot of it is happening either stealth or in a way that's seamless, and the benefits sort of roll out gradually and benefit you. But yeah, we're all being monitored all the time by our overlords.
How much does Google record? This is your moment.
About the same thing. I mean,
damn it, I tried, sorry. I tried.
But one thing to note is, even if you're a full-time Googler and you try to access user data, you can't do it.
Yeah,
okay? You have to have, you know, you have to be on the right project with the right permissions, with the right whatever. So it's not like, you know, this data is, and all these companies realize this, right? This data is the most valuable thing that they have, and they have to protect it from...
It's super protected, but it's also always, what do you call it? De-identified and anonymized. And,
right.
But still, people find it creepy, right? Because it doesn't matter how many benefits you can give them, even people with disabilities who would truly benefit from them. So it's not, you know, what Alon was talking about, that you go from, you know, good to great. It's just from not so good to base level. People still are not willing to sacrifice their autonomy.
So what we're talking about is the degree of privacy. And it may be so that no matter how much you anonymize it and secure it, there's a sense and a perception of privacy that you're working with. Is that right?
Here's, I think, what's happening. We're already storing the most valuable data we have with companies. I mean, your Gmail, your photos, your messages, they're already stored there, okay? So we've given up on that because we can't...
Yeah, how many have iCloud here?
Right, so we can't live our life without that. But things start getting weird when you start fusing data, okay? Putting data together is like where people get scared. And as a guy who made a career out of data integration, I appreciate that, okay? And so even integration, even if at Google, if you want to integrate data from multiple Google services, you just can't do that unless the user gives you explicit consent. I'm sure the same is at Apple. And now think about going across multiple companies and fusing that data. I think we need to find a solution where people are comfortable with fusing data in a way that it's the fused data or the conclusions from that fused data are only visible to them. That seems to be a trust cliff that we need to pass.
Indeed.
So I want to make a comment and ask one more question, but
keep the awesome questions.
So I want to make a comment, and I hope people respect this a huge amount. I don't know how long we've been talking so far, but we have not mentioned the word agent yet. Okay, which is remarkable.
Which is a huge win.
So I think it's a world record. So please, if you're recording this, please note that. But my question is, suppose you had this perfect personalized agent that knew whatever you wanted to know about you. Okay, it was aware of your context, it was aware of everything you wanted to be aware. What is like the killer thing that you would want this agent to do for you? And this, I think anybody in the audience is welcome to.
Well, I can answer. Oh yeah, please. Amazing videos for your business.
Making videos for your okay.
What direction bring a career forward? Or like the best way to approach it with your strengths and like weaknesses?
So help you navigate your career. Awesome.
Yeah?
I'd like it to search for research and clinical trial opportunities.
Nice. Research and clinical trial opportunities. Something I've worked with.
I'm going to call it accelerated serendipity. So, if it knows me, what I want, my goals, my needs, my offers, it knows it's contextually aware first, it's going to connect me to the right people. That can be personally, that can be dating, that can be business, but it's something that really knows me that well and connects.
All right, so those are all awesome suggestions. Can I have a follow-up question to it?
Can you just repeat what he said?
Oh, sorry. Gentleman over there said accelerated serendipity. So by virtue of knowing a lot of things about me, it would tell me about opportunities and paths professionally or personally, I guess, that would be sort of beneficial for me that I haven't maybe thought of myself. I actually was going to say something similar personally, but I do have a follow-up question to that related to what we're talking about. And maybe we can do it by a raise of hands. How many of you, given whatever your ideal agentic use case is, would be willing to, and we can do this as a sort of couple of buckets, would be willing to give access to everything in your life? Given that, with the assumption that the agent, your personal agent, is the only entity on the earth that has access to it, right? You're going to magically make this assumption. So how many of you would raise of hand, give access to 100%, and we're going to go down in percentage? Who owns the agent? In my opinion, you own the agent. And that's how Apple wants to do it too, I would say. Manage as in where it's running or where, yeah. Yeah. Let me ask you like this: who manages? You own your iPhone, I assume, or hope you have an iPhone. You own your iPhone, but who manages your iPhone? So, right. Many parts. And I do actually think it's going to be the same with our agents. As we sort of progress into this agentic world, we're going to have certain agents that are very personal. They run on our personal devices. No one else has access to it. And then there's agents that are much more powerful that may need to tap into shared resources in the cloud or elsewhere. Like an operating system. Apple owns the operating system on your phone, right?
Oh,
30 seconds.
30 seconds left. Oh my gosh.
So a part of that is you want a shared protocol and a language between the different entities that you're using that you have control over, so you don't have to control the end product, which is always typically provided by a commercial company, right? So there are multiple layers that could be part of the solution here.
That's true. So I think we've run out of time, but we just started the discussion. So find us after, and thank you all.